In this video, I want to introduce you more closely to the tripod that you're going to be using with the Canon XC15. This tripod is manufactured by a company called Manfrotto. There are lots of different tripod manufacturers. There are all different sort of idiosyncrasies about, in particular, tripods that we use. In our CER, we have Manfrotto tripods, we have some Vinton tripods, and we have some higher end tripods made by a company out of Germany called Sackler. Those tripods are very, very common on professional sets. The Manfrotto tripods are a little bit less expensive and a little bit, lower down in terms of on the tier compared to the Sackler tripods in terms of price and sort of not professionalism. I mean, they are professional tripods. But anyway, I want to show you a little bit more closely about this tripod, which is the Manfrotto MVH 502A, which is a compact, lightweight tripod for small cameras like DSLRs and small video camcorders like the PXW Z150, which we use for broadcast news reporting, and the Canon XC15, which we are using in this particular semester. Now, most tripods function in very similar ways. So I just want you to take a look at this item as it comes out of the box, and I'm going to show you how to operate it correctly and how to mount a camera onto it correctly. The first thing you might notice when it comes out of the case is that the legs are bound together here with this band. So what you're going to do is you're going to just pull on this little on this rubber band until it comes over the cleat, and then the rubber band will come loose. Now, if you pull, this rubber band will come off. Don't lose this because it's how we bind the legs together. It's also really useful when the tripod is open to use this band to tie things to the tripod, like a cable or a battery pack or something like that you might want to have on hand. So I'm going to remove this here so that it's free. You'll also notice that we've got this plastic cleat that's here. This is what the rubber strap attaches to. It clicks onto the two bars that are in each leg, just like that, and it can stay there. Now, the tripod legs at their center have a riser that's right here. And when you open the legs, actually the first thing I want to do is this handle is sort of in the way. In order to get this handle out of the way, I'm going to loosen this thumb screw that's right on the side. And as I loosen it, you'll notice that if you can get a little bit closer there, which I bet you can, right? So you see those teeth that are right here on the arm, those teeth sort of bite into each other as you rotate the handle. It'll just allows it to seat really nicely and not rotate once it's tightened down. So I'm going to raise this arm up out of the way so it's not sort of bumping us. I'm going to tighten this. I'm going to hand tighten it. I'm not going to go crazy. I'm not going to beast mode it. I'm not going to force it, because if you force it, you'll break it. If you break it, you'll risk having to buy it, which we don't want you to have to do. All right. Now, when I open the legs of the tripod, you'll see right here, the riser is going to lower down, this right here, and it's going to hold the legs apart from each other at the correct distance in order to provide stability to the tripod. You'll see that. Now, this, on some tripods is referred to as a spreader, where these extensions that are coming off of this spreader, actually you can change their length and actually move the legs further and further apart and closer together in order to maintain a wider stance and a lower center of gravity. These tripods do not have an adjustable spreader, but this does prevent the legs from sort of coming apart all the way and being sort of hard to handle. Now, each leg, let's see if I can rotate this easily. There we go. Each leg on this tripod has two stages. You'll see that there are two latches right here. These latches provide friction against the leg. Now, when I open this lower stage, I can extend the leg out to, I guess that's probably about 2.5 feet or so. And then The second stage can open and the leg will extend, will double in length again, right? At full extension, the tripod probably will be about shoulder height. It's about shoulder height for me, which I'm about 5'11". You should adjust your height of the camera in a way that is most sensible for the shot you're trying to obtain and not based upon the height of the shooter. But that is how you extend the legs. Now notice these open and close pretty easily. Don't force them, right? You don't want to force any of these mechanical objects because then this latch would have to be replaced and that's a problem, or they could lose their friction and the leg will collapse. So don't force it. Don't sort of mistreat it. And it should work just fine for you. This particular tripod has rubber feet on the bottom of the legs. Some tripods have or pedestals have the ability to remove the rubber feet, and they actually have metal spikes that are used to dig into the ground if you're on an uneven surface. This Manfrotto tripod just comes with rubber feet and they're fixed, and you can't really change that. Now I'm going to move up a little bit and we're going to show you some of the adjustments before we set the tripod up. Now, underneath what's called these are the legs of the tripod, the 3 legs, hence tripod. And then this part is called the head. This is the head or video head or camera head of the tripod. This is what you're actually mounting the camera on. This video head is actually adjustable. Right here in the center, there is a screw that you can loosen like this. And you'll notice that when I loosen it, the head kind of swims around. It's because the top of the tripod sort of has a shape like a cup, and the bottom of the head has a sort of a shape like a bowl. Now, this is common in professional production equipment, and various pedestal systems have bigger and smaller bowls on their tripods. Like really heavy-duty 35mm film cameras use a much larger bowl on their tripods. This just happens to be the size for this one. This ability to move the head around like this by loosening the screw allows you to level the tripod, which I'm going to show you in a moment, to make sure that the camera is completely flush and parallel with the earth, regardless of the stance of the legs. So if, for example, you're on uneven ground, you can get a good base for the camera and then adjust the head so that it is level to ensure that the camera is level. It'll also allow you to execute some minor Dutch angles by using the movement of the head here to create an effect. So when you can loosen that, when you tighten it down, like just hand tighten it. You don't have to go crazy with it. Don't force it. The tripod has a handful of different controls on it. You'll notice that there are dials, main dials on either side of the head and inside and on the collar here. This one right here that's on the right side of the video head has the Manfrotto logo on it, and it says lock, and it has these arrows that are pointing in a clockwise direction. If I loosen this nut in a counterclockwise direction, don't take it out, just loosen it. What that does is it releases the lock on the tilting control for the video head. It allows me to smoothly tilt up and down by moving the arm up and down when this is loose. If I turn it to the right and lock it, I could still force it using more pressure, but we don't want to do that because we risk breaking a piece of equipment if we force it. So don't do that, right? Next thing I'm going to show you, I'm going to flip the tripod over, or I'm going to rotate it the head actually, and I'm going to show you the other side of the video head. I'm going to spin it around like this. Now this side of the video head, you'll see that there's a label here that says fluid drag system. And with the clockwise turn, there's a plus sign, and with a counterclockwise turn, there is a minus sign. If I rotate this wheel to the left and remove the drag or the tension or the friction against the tilt lock, I'm going to be able to much more freely move this tripod up and down, right? Now, You're not going to want to keep this open and loose like this because it's going to be very hard for you to control the camera if you're executing a tilt this way. So what I do is, what you want to do is you want to adjust this and turn up the tension until it feels right for you, and you can get a nice smooth tilt movement on it with just enough resistance, right? Now, the friction that's created, the tension that's created here is inside the head. This is called a fluid head. The video head is actually filled with a hydraulic fluid that creates the tension by increasing the pressure as you tighten down the screw. Lesser quality tripods and lesser quality video heads use what are called friction heads, which really just use the tightening down of a screw in order to make it harder to tilt. This is different. This is going to allow you to get a much smoother movement with the camera because it's a fluid head. That is the tilt lock and tilt drag control. Here's the tilt drag control, and then the lock control is the one we just showed you on the underside. I'm now going to rotate the head 90 degrees so we can take a look underneath here. Great. Straighten this out. There we go. Okay. Right. So now we're looking sort of underneath where the camera would be. The camera would be mounted up here, and we're looking underneath in this spot right here, and there's a knob right here. Now, if I release this knob by rotating it counterclockwise, this is the pan lock for the video head. If it is turned to the right, to counterclockwise until it locks down, this locks the panning control, and you're not going to be able to pan the camera unless you use a lot of force, which you're not going to use because if you force it, you'll break it. And if you break it, you'll buy it, right? We don't want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to release this so that the tripod head will pan. And then you'll see this red collar that's here on the bottom. This is our drag control for panning the camera. If I release that drag all the way in that direction, you'll notice that this head is going to swivel very, very freely, right? I'll rotate the head around. And right here on the rear of the head, there's a label that says fluid drag system with a plus sign that way and a minus sign that way. That way, right? So if I've rotated the drag system and turned the drag all the way off, this head is going to rotate very, very rapidly. Now, this is not going to work really well for me if I'm using the tripod and trying to get a smooth pan. If I'm doing a whip pan where I'm moving the camera back quickly from one location to the other, maybe that will work. But what I'm going to want to do is increase the drag by rotating the ring to the left. And then as I roll the camera, it's going to get a little bit more resistance. Here's a little bit more and a little bit more resistance. And then now you see, if I notice, like here's my hand, right? Like I can move it with resistance just with a fingertip, right? Now you should adjust this drag control so that it's most comfortable for the shot and the movement that you are trying to make. And that's how that works. So let me set this tripod down here for a moment. And let me move this actually. All right. And we're going to take a look at the first thing we're going to do when we set our tripod up before we even place the camera is we're going to roughly set the height of the tripod and we're going to level the tripod. So here I am, I'm down here, I'm going to grab the level knob, I'm going to pick the tripod up, I'm going to bring it a little bit closer there, and I'm going to extend the legs on the bottom stage. There. Now I'm holding onto the tripod at all times while the leg locks are released. And right now, the leg locks are loose, and as I pick it up, I'm just going to eyeball it and try to get it by eye so that it is pretty level. And this is pretty close. It's not perfect, and that's okay. But my leg, it's going to be relatively close. So here what I've done is I've extended the legs, and the tripod is sort of by eye a bit close to level. Now the next thing I want to show you is actually I'm going to move this rod up and out of the way a little bit because I'm going to tilt up at sort of an extreme angle to show you what I'm doing. I'm going to tilt this head down. You don't need to do this when you're in the field, but it's for the camera here. So I'm going to unlock the tilt lock, and I'm going to tilt this tripod head up if I can. What you see here is a bubble level. Now inside, there's a little capsule here filled with fluid, and there's a bubble inside of it. Now what this is doing is it's providing a level reference for our head, our video head. And if this level is set to be level, the camera will be in alignment with the level, and the camera will be level and parallel with the surface of the earth, not with the height of the legs, which might be somewhat off. So the way that we do that is by gripping the video head around the collar here and reaching underneath and grabbing the release screw with one hand and the collar with the other. So I'm going to release the level screw on the bottom, and you'll notice that the video head, as I rotate it counterclockwise, is going to freely sort of wobble around. And I'm going to look down into the level right here, and I'm going to adjust this level until the bubble is inside the circle that's in the level. If I go over here, the bubble is not in the center. If I go over here, the bubble is not in the center. I'm going to adjust it until the bubble is in the center and the head is level, like that. And then I'm going to tighten down the screw. And in doing so, the head of this tripod is now level. And when I place the camera on the tripod, the camera will be level with the surface of the earth. Now, I may want to make changes when I'm getting my shot set up. Maybe I want to use a Dutch angle. Maybe I don't care if it's level. But when you take your tripod out of the case, the very first thing that you should do is set up the legs and level the tripod before you put the camera on top. Now I want to talk a little bit about mounting the camera. So here we see the top of the video head right here. And in this location, there's a plate. This plate comes off of the tripod and mounts onto the bottom of the camera. Now, you'll see on this side of the head, on the right side of the head, there is a thumb screw. If I loosen this thumb screw, the mounting plate slides freely back and forth. It won't come off, forward and back on the tripod. The reason that this happens is so that when you have a camera put on the tripod, you can adjust the position of the camera forward and back in order to adjust the counterbalance of the camera. So if you have a camera that's sort of heavy in the front because the lens is sort of heavy, you might move the plate to the rear so that it balances out, so that when the tripod, the head is unlocked, that the camera stays level and doesn't pitch forward or pitch back because of the weight of the camera. So what we want to do in order to mount the camera onto the tripod is we want to remove this plate from the tripod and put it onto the camera correctly. Now, you will loosen the thumb screw, slides back and forth like this, and to the rear of the video head, right here, which I'll tilt up so you can see, right here, there is a release button. Now, you'll notice when I push the release button, look right here. This is this latch is holding the mounting plate into position. And what we want, right now, that latch is holding the plate on. So what we'll do is I will push that button with my middle finger like that, and with my thumb and my index finger, slide the plate to the rear, and it will come right off. To put the plate back on the tripod, we're going to lay the plate down and slide forward until we hear a click. And when you hear that click, that's the latch holding the plate. Push down the button, slide the plate to the rear, and it comes off. Now, keep in mind, if you force things and use a lot of pressure, you could risk breaking some things. Don't do that. Don't break things. Don't force it. To place the plate on the tripod, you place it down here just to the rear of these teeth, the rear teeth. Slide it forward until it clicks. There it was. And now it's in place. You can tighten down the thumb screw and that'll hold the camera in position, and then you can adjust. So thumb screw open, press the button to the rear, and slide the plate off to the rear. Now, here on the bottom of the mounting plate, you'll see that there's embossed a label right here that says lens with an arrow. It's indicating that the lens of the camera should point in the direction of the arrow, that this is the front of the plate, which goes towards the front of the tripod. If you put the plate in backwards, it could get stuck and it could have to be manually removed by disassembling the tripod, the video head. It could potentially ruin your shoot, and it could potentially damage the tripod. Put the camera on in the right direction and place the plate into the tripod in the correct orientation and direction. It shouldn't go in the other way. It should only go in one way. And it should require you to force it to do anything different than that. So don't force it. That would be a mistake. So here I will remove the plate. We're going to take a look at the plate in just a second. But I do want to bring up, there are all sorts of things on tripods, right? There are some screw holes here. There's a place here for you to place an extra tripod screw. If you had a spare, it will just screw in there and get stored there. These arms that adjust, you'll notice that we can loosen and move. And there's also a mount on the opposite side over here that matches this one. You could actually take this arm and flip it to the other side. You could use two arms and have sort of like drive it like a motorcycle, more like a studio camera. There's some flexibility here. This tripod is pretty simple as tripods go, but the core components are the legs, the latches that hold the legs in position, the leveling system that we've just discussed, tilt control, pan control, and how to remove and replace the mounting plate for the camera. Now I'm going to move over and show you the mounting plate and how we attach it to a camera and put the camera onto the tripod. So here we are looking at the mounting plate for the camera. Now, for the tripod rather. Now, all tripod systems use some form of a mounting plate. Now, in the case of the Manfrotto tripods, the plates sort of slide on and out from the rear of the video head. In other kinds of tripods like Cartonis, they sort of snap in over the side, or the Sacklers sort of have another way that sort of drops in and then there's a lock on it. They're all a little bit different. And, you know, when you get a tripod from the CER, if you get a different brand or a different model that functions a little differently, you should explore how that mounting plate attaches and detaches from the tripod before you leave the CER, particularly if you don't have any prior experience with it, because all systems are a little bit different. This just happens to be the one that we're using for this class, so that's why I'm showing it to you. Now, a couple of things about the mounting plate. Now, you'll notice that the mounting plate is beveled on the edges here and here. This allows the mounting plate to keystone into the top of the tripod so that the camera can be steady and in a fixed position. The bottom of the tripod has ridges milled into the side of it in order to provide a stop against the tripod so that the mounting plate doesn't slide off the top of the tripod and cause the camera to fall. The mounting screw it slides back and forth here sort of captively is held on by this rubber stopper. If this rubber stopper is open like that, this screw will come out. And if that rubber stopper is missing or not there, it's possible that this mounting screw could have fallen out of the mounting plate. And if you don't check your equipment before you before you take it from the CER to confirm that your tripod has a mounting plate and that your mounting screw is on the mounting plate, you could wind up out for your shoot and not have this very simple quarter 20 screw and not be able to use your tripod. So you want to make sure that your mounting plate has a tripod in it. Your mounting plate has a mounting screw in it, and that the rubber stopper is captivating that screw in the mounting plate so it won't fall out. Now, this rubber stopper can be removed from the mounting plate. So it's not uncommon as time goes by for a rubber stopper like this to go missing from a mounting plate. And it really isn't that tough. Here, I'll show you how easy it is to just drop the screw out of the mounting plate, right? Because there are various diameters of screw that are used. This is a quarter 20 screw, which is the smaller standardized screw for a camera, which fits in the XC15. There are larger gauge screws that are used for heavier cameras that will also fit this mounting plate, that fit through this opening. You'll notice that the mounting plate actually has a collar. The threads here, see if I can get that a little closer. So you'll see that the threads here at the top, and then they sort of, there's a narrowing here at the stem of the screw. That's so that screw is captivated inside the mounting plate and it can't fall out. So I'm going to make sure here that my rubber stopper is in place. It's kind of two-sided, so then the little bit goes in that hole right here. Just sort of push it in with my thumb and it should just pop in. It did, I thought. There we go. See that right there? Rubber stopper is in, and I'm gonna push it in there, and now that screw can't come out. This is what the mounting plate should look like. If your rubber stopper is missing or your screw is missing, stop. Notify the CER worker. Make sure that you have that on your mounting plate. You'll also notice that here on the front of the mounting plate, there's a brass pin. This brass pin is spring-loaded with this little leaf spring, right? Which is spring-loaded. If I push it, it'll pop back up. This brass pin is here to help you mount a camera onto the plate in a straight orientation and prevent the camera from rotating as you're mounting the camera. Let's move over to the bottom of the XC15 and we'll take a look at it. So here I have the XC15 in my hand. Nice little compact camera. They're really fun to shoot with. I love the fact that the handle rotates. It allows me to get some interesting sort of grips and that are comfortable if I'm shooting a low angle or a high angle. When I flip the camera over and I look at the bottom of it, you're going to see that there are two holes on the bottom of the XC15, right? We've got this hole right here and another hole just above it. The hole right here is threaded with metal threads. It's lined with a screw hole and a metal threads, and this is an unthreaded screw. Now, if we look at the bottom of the mounting plate, you'll see that we have a threaded screw and the brass pin. So we are going to use the brass pin to go into the unthreaded hole and the threaded screw to go into the threaded hole. And that is going to allow us to mount the camera to the mounting plate and prevent rotation because the brass pin is going to hold the camera in a straight position. So the best way that I've found to do this is I hold the mounting plate between my thumb and my middle finger, and you can see right here I'm holding it there, and that leaves my index finger sort of free. So what I'll do is I'll rock the mounting plate forward so the screw is against the front, and I'll grip it and then use my index finger to slide the screw. And this is my method regardless of the camera that I'm using. In the case of the XC15, the brass pin and the screw hole are very close together. In the case of the Z150, they might be further apart, or and it might need some minor adjustment. So by holding it this way, I have some freedom to adjust where the screw is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up the brass pin to the unthreaded hole and the screw to the threaded hole, and I'm going to place it onto the bottom of the camera. And as I do that, I'm going to gently rotate clockwise and tighten down the thumb screw. Now the plate is attached to the camera, right? But look at it. Look at it. It's able to swivel and move around quite a bit. And we want to try to avoid that. So what we're going to do is we're going to tighten down this screw enough so that the screw seats snugly on the mounting plate and in the bottom of the camera. So I'm going to thumb tighten it until I can't really do it anymore. And then I'm going to take some sort of driver to drive the screw only enough to snug it down. I'm not gonna twist really, really hard because you're risking bottoming the screw out in the camera, cracking the bottom of the camera, particularly because a lot of these cameras all of these cameras are made of plastic, and if you are too rough with it, you could damage the bottom of the camera. Most people don't carry pocket change. Back in the day, a dime, a nickel, a quarter was the order of the day. In fact, what I probably should do is take a quarter or a nickel and drill a hole in it and put it on my key ring. But in this case, I use my keys. Now, you have to be very careful, especially if you're talking about keys for campus offices and rooms and stuff, or your dorm room, is that frequently I never use the front of a key to drive the screw. Even though it fits in there in the slot, you could damage your key and then you'll be locked out of your dorm room or your apartment, and then it's going to be a big mess. What I do is I use the head of the key if it will fit. In this case, the head of all my keys will fit. I'll grab this smaller one. This is a padlock key. So here I have a padlock key, and I'm going to use the side of it, not the teeth, to turn the screw just a quarter of a turn or so until it's tight, but I'm not going to muscle it in so that it's easy to take out. So here I'm going to rotate it. And now it's nice and snug. This mounting plate is not going to rotate. I can't pull it off, and the camera is straight on the mounting plate. So the next step is I'm going to show you how to mount the camera onto the tripod now that the mounting plate is on the camera. Word of caution, it's very common for students to return cameras and fail to remove the mounting plate from the camera and put it back on the tripod. Mounting plates belong on tripods, not on the cameras long term. In some rental houses and production houses, they actually purchase extra mounting plates and keep them on the cameras at all times. The reason we don't do this is because we have a variety of cameras, we have a variety of tripod systems, and not all of the mounting plate systems are identical. Make certain that when you check your cameras and your tripod out from the CER, that it has a mounting plate with it and that it has a screw with it. Make certain that when you return the tripod to the CER, the mounting plate is with the tripod and not left on the camera. Make sure of that. Okay, moving back over to the procedure for mounting the camera onto the tripod. I've set the tripod up. The legs are open. I'm going to adjust the level by loosening the screw here on the bottom. And I'm going to double check my level, make sure that the bubble is in the center of the circle on the level, and tighten it down. So now the head is level, and I have my camera with the mounting plate on it, and I want to mount the camera onto this tripod. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that this thumb screw is open so that I don't get any resistance when I slide the mounting plate forward onto the tripod. Now, the rear of the mounting system here on the tripod is flat. It has flat edges here, so the plate will sit right here. But these tabs that are on either side, where it sort of narrows up right here and right here, those are actually bevels that bite into the bevels on the mounting plate. So here's my mounting plate with beveled edges, and here are the bevels on the tripod. So what should happen is I should be able to place the mounting plate here and slide it forward, catching the bevels, and then the latch will catch the plate and hold the camera onto the tripod. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the camera down onto the top of the tripod on the flat bit, right? And then once I'm near the bevel, I'm going to take my thumb and I'm going to push forward on the mounting plate until I hear a click. Now the camera is captive on the front of the tripod. I can slide it forward and back. And when I'm happy with where it is, I'm going to tighten the thumb screw on the right-hand side. I'll tighten the thumb screw here on the right hand side, and now secure the camera to the tripod. So one of the things I want to point out is how important it is to take care of our equipment, to make sure nothing bad happens to it. We want to make sure that we are placing our tripod onto solid level ground as much as we can, that we are leveling our tripod as soon as we set it up before the camera goes onto it, putting the mounting plate on the camera correctly, and then putting the camera onto the tripod correctly, and understanding how the locks work to support the camera. This concludes the introduction video for the Manfrotto tripod and the Canon XC15. Thank you for your attention.